Hey, Delise. Hey, Gavion. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right,
Yeah.
let's get started. It's about 7:32, 7:33. Let's wait a minute. Let me turn on recording. All right. So glad to have you guys with me. Lisa will be joining in a minute. I'm sure others will be joining. We're already streaming to Facebook and cross-pointed over to Grace Point. So let's ask the Lord to bless. Father, we come and we just thank you for tonight. We thank you, dear God, for your word. We thank you for your love, your mercy. We thank you for one more time. We ask you one more time, God, to inhabit our Bible study and to teach us by the power of your Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So we're starting in last week. I gave a basic overview of Samson and Delilah, and it's a tale of self-destruction. And uh, so we talked about, we introduced what this really looked like and how we can draw parallels to today, right? And really, it's uh, a story. This story is a story of self-ruination, right? Because he's been uh, constantly doing what he wanted to do. I said something on Sunday that I don't know if a lot of people got, right? Before we're saved, sin is our master. After we're saved, sin is our choice. And so, while the indwelling of the Holy Spirit and salvation wasn't a concept in the Old Testament, we can see, though, how even in Samson, whose life God had his hand on from the time Samson was born and who was dedicated to God, he still, even with that close connection, he still was choosing sin, choosing immorality, choosing his flesh, choosing his lust. And, one of the questions we asked, and one that I would like you all to remember throughout this, is how does that happen in a life that's called by God to not just greatness, but such greatness, right? So that was what we covered. We talked about, we gave an introduction of what we would be covering last week, and then we hung up, I believe. And so here's the beginning. We're in Judges chapter 16. We'll be going down Judges chapter 16 tonight. We'll cover all the way to verse 21, if God says the same. And then verse 22 through 31 is the end of Samson's life and the end of his judgeship, and how God still um, dealt with Samson and still used Samson as an instrument of his purpose. We talked about all of the things that Samson had done up to this point and how he was driven. And so let's look at what the scripture says. This is chapter 16. It says that Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute and he went into her. The Gazites were told, Samson has come here. And they surrounded the place and set an ambush for him all night at the gate of the city. They kept quiet all night, saying, let us wait until the light of the morning, then we will kill him. But Samson lay till midnight, and at midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the two posts and pulled them up, bar and all, and put them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that is in front of Hebron. Let me ask you, what do you guys see right now, just in this scripture?
Samson is crazy.
That's funny. Samson is crazy. What else?
He went, just verse 1, he went to Gaza, and there he found a prostitute, which is, I'm thinking, not expected of him.
Hmm. Not according to his calling. Isn't that right, Master of Nazarite, Delise?
That is correct.
What else do we see?
It seems like in his folly, he's still smart enough to be on to them.
Mm, because he
He
wasn't.
has a reputation. They know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Samson has come here. You know, they know what that means.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And also they know that he's wanted, right? His name, his face, his picture is all over the post office, right? Everybody know he's top 10 wanted, right? And so he's come here, and what did they decide they wanted to do?
Kill him.
They wanted to kill him. That's right, Gavion. And this word kill, what's the difference between just straight up murder and killing and assassination? Anybody know? Why do we use the word assassination?
I honestly don't know.
You
Hmm,
told
I
us
think,
before. I think it had something to
yeah,
do with it being a political or powerful person.
that's exactly right.
yeah.
Assassination has political overtones. And so this is actually a planned assassination, right? And what the definition is, is that assassination is the sudden or secret killing of someone with political overtones, right? What else do you see? What do you see in verse 3? Not just he was on to them, right? Because you saw that, Delise called that out, right? But what else?
He picks up a whole gate and pillars and carries them, which you shouldn't be able to do.
Right. And this is not some chain link fence gate, is it?
Nope.
This is like the whole doors of the city. And you've seen all these movies, right? Where the doors of the city are at least 20 feet high. You can't climb over them, right? You can't get under them. And he just rips the whole thing out and he puts them on his shoulders. He carries him up to a hill right in front of Hebron, right? And which means everybody can see now the gate of the city when they're coming into town, right? In Gaza, when they coming into Gaza, right? Hebron is in Gaza. When they come into Gaza, right? Hebron is the first town they get to, and he put them right on the hill in front of Gaza, saying it's an open place now. I've made it open. So yeah, good. So Samson, right? And this was what we talked about last week. Samson sinned with a prostitute, right? And that sin almost got him killed, didn't it? And so all of his compromise and his lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and lust of the world, right? Um, it almost cost him his life. Why is his sin significant? Anyone? Why is
He's
it
on,
significant? Why do we
Because
keep
of,
calling out Samson's sin?
he's on doing the same thing.
He keeps doing the same thing. Good, good. But we saw that in Israel all through the judges, right? They kept doing the same thing. Why is his so different? Remember, we talked about it last week.
Because he was specifically
Chosen.
called and set
yeah,
aside.
he was set aside.
He was set aside, and this is all about him. Remember, all of the other judges we saw marshaled the Israelites and they rebelled and they got victory, right? This one is all about a single person. And I think that from a personal application perspective, we got to see how individuals are impacted by their own lust, right? And all of us have a calling on our life. Whether you're called to be a mom or you're called to be the president, right? Your sin will impact your ability to fulfill your calling. What do you think about that?
You become your own worst enemy.
Yeah. And so his sin is indicative of what and what?
Self-destruction.
Self-destruction, good. Anyone else? Selfishness, right? He was only about doing what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it. If it felt good, Samson was going to do it. No question, right? And so it's indicative of a personal pursuit of fleshly lust.
So, Pastor, question for you. How does the difference between him and Solomon, who went for everything like earthly pleasures and stuff like that, what's the
But did he
difference?
start out that way? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question and answer your question. Did Solomon start out that way?
I don't think so.
Samson started out that way, didn't he? Samson, from the time we get his public life is published, right? We see that Samson started out in rebellion, started out in flesh, started out in lust, started out in his selfish desires, right? He started out that way. There's a difference here than in Solomon's life, which is a great point, Gavion. At the end of his, not the end, but toward the later part of his rule, he started to consume, right? Some of it was political, right? Making all of these marriages with these other nations. It created a power consolidation. Treaties were done through marriages. Commerce was accomplished through marriages, right? Agreements, peace was gained through marriage, right? And so Solomon did a bunch of that and then just became totally consumed by his own desires and flesh, right? So he had, they say 400 concubines, right? He had a bunch of wives and 400 concubines, right? Which is, and y'all have got to hear Lisa teach on the 31st chapter of Proverbs, right? Proverbs 31 because she taught a great lesson some years ago where she pointed out that here's mom coming in the room and she is just going at her son about his choices, right? And how to choose somebody. And these are not what you should be looking at, right? And she's chasing these women out of his bedroom. He's chasing these women out of Solomon's bedroom. So that's a great kind of connection there, Gavion. Just a different pace toward destruction, right? And so Solomon writes at the end of his rule, he writes Proverbs and he talks about it in terms of all is vanity and vexation of the spirit, right? Everything that he looked to do for himself became his own vanity, right? His own vanity not destroyed him, but diminished him. And his own vanity, right, became the reason his spirit was so depressed, right? When you read Ecclesiastes, not Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, when you read Ecclesiastes, Koheleth, the preacher, the teacher, right? You read that and you see where Solomon is almost like Jeremiah's lamentation, right? He's talking about the struggle that he had, and he's looking at life, and he's looking at it from an objective and subjective way, right? But Samson's sin was indicative of his self-serving nature, right? And it was pure rebellion. But it's amazing how God continued to use him in his rebellion. See, God's got his purpose and he's going to accomplish his purpose. So he goes out, right? 40 miles out of town, out of his town, right, to Gaza, and somebody catches his eye, right? And he he yielded to the temptation and he broke the clear commandment of God. In this instance, what's the clear commandment of God? Not just the Nazarite life, but when we're talking about, remember, sex in those days, right, was indicative of somebody being willing to spend a life. So he catches a prostitute and he goes in and he gives to this prostitute the intimacy that is only due what? Due who?
Due to a wife.
Due to a wife. Exactly. Right. And so does God tell us that sex is bad?
No.
No. Right? He created that intimate relationship between a husband and wife to complete and to fill the hole of loneliness, right? And so, what's the real issue with illicit sex?
It's self-serving.
Yes, but does anyone remember the scripture that says, "He that sins in that way sins against his own body"?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
You're not only defiling her, you're defiling yourself.
And as quiet as it's kept, You carry the baggage of every sexual relationship
Yeah.
with you into the next relationship, right? Whether it is you're making the person you're with try to fulfill everything you experienced with the person you left, right? You bring expectations and you bring other things that defile what should be a unique relationship. You carry that baggage, you carry, and it's a stain. You know, people don't even see your sexual sin prior to trying to commit in marriage, right? You carry that like a sexual, like a stain in your body, and it is against your body and it's against your heart. Let me stop there. Questions? So many marriages are broken because men and women bring in expectations based upon previous relationships. So many sexual relationships are broken because we are impressed and impacted by what we have experienced. And it's not fair, right? It's not fair to the person you're with, the person you're supposed to be loving. And it creates a rift when it should be creating a bond. What do you think about that?
I agree.
Hebrews 13:4 says, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge. Right? The marriage bed is undefiled. That is where you discover. That is where you enjoy. That is where you have laughter and joy, right? But when you are a whoremonger or an adulterer, you you take all of the joy out of it, and it makes it more difficult to share the joy with the person you really want to, because you've brought all of that in. The reason Stevie Wonder was right. If it's special, then with it, why aren't we as careful as keeping danger from a child,
Hmm.
right? If we were honest with our children and told them, if you do this before you're married, you will carry this into your marriage. Okay, I'll leave that for you to get when you get home. All right, so Samson was called by God, but he was wanted dead or alive, right? And the reason Gaza, they're all spying. They all know his name. There's no post office you could go in those days. They didn't have post offices. I'm just using that as kind of a picture, right? That where Samson's picture, his name, his look, everything, his description was not known. And spies were always looking out for him because the Philistines had put a price on his head, right? And so the Gazans were just going to kill him. He finds out, he leaves, and he takes the city gates with him. What? How? How does a sinful life? I need you all to ask yourself, if God is holy, how does a sinful life continue to contain such power?
Because God's not done with them yet.
Say again?
Because God's not done with them yet.
God's not done with him yet, but more than that, anybody else?
Because God's still using him to do his purpose. And whether Samson is compliant or not, I think that's beside the point. But God has given him every chance to obey him.
Yes, and what we're talking about, right? Where does that power come from? Where does the power in that life come from?
The Lord.
From the Lord. There it is, right? And so Samson is able to exhibit these powerful moments because the power is not in him, right? It is God's power that he is using. So I want you all to think about 25 years of news about fallen preachers and teachers and great people, right? They have all of this power, and even afterwards, they still seem to have so much power. Why is that? Because the power that they have is given by God. God says, well, the scripture says, all powers and authorities are what?
Given by me. Yeah.
Given by God.
That's right. Put in place by God. And so when we're looking at this, right, we cannot presume. First of all, I think Samson was pretty presumptuous, but we cannot presume on the power of God, the grace of God, the blessing of God, right? Just because you have a tremendous gift, does that mean that you are tremendously gifted,
No.
right? And so we've gotta pay attention when God gifts us to make sure that we are using our gift for his glory, not for our personal advantage and not to fulfill our own lust, right? And lust is not always about sex. It's easy in this example to point out how sexual gratification motivated Samson, right? And what he saw he wanted. But I need you to understand lust of the eyes is not about lust of the flesh, is it?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
What is lust of the eyes?
It's
Seeing
about
it,
what
wanting
we
it.
see and
Covetousness.
wanting it.
Hmm.
We do
Exactly.
whatever to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And we will do anything to get it, right? So we've got to be, as you watch this, remember, don't just get caught up in his physical relationship. Understand that this is lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. What is the pride of life?
Yeah. Hmm.
Youthfulness.
Yes,
Kind of
and
look what I've done.
look what
Yeah,
I've
and
done.
also when it seems like things are always going your way,
Hmm.
you kind of forget that God is the one that blesses you. So you lean on the things, the money, the whatever.
Right. Whatever it is,
Mhm.
right? You begin to
Yeah.
think that you're the one that brought it about.
Right. And you can't, that's what you're counting on. You're not counting on God blessing you. Now
That's
I'm
right.
counting on the stuff I got. Yeah.
That's right. And we look
Hmm.
at it, we think our
Yeah.
success is because, some people will look at success in lives and say, that guy's lucky. No, no, no,
Right.
no. Right. And people will begin to believe their own story.
Yeah.
They will,
Yeah, we laugh about that all the time because we're watching sports or something like that. I'm like, yeah, he believe his own story now.
yes, yes. He's believing his own hype, right?
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah,
believing
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
own hype.
Yeah, we
And
say
it's
that all
amazing
the
to
time.
watch because the fall is so great when you see somebody that's
Yeah,
believing their own hype and a knee injury, right?
yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
all of a sudden, you can't heal yourself.
Hmm.
And you'll never bring yourself back to that glory. And you see lives just begin to fall apart because of it, don't you?
Right.
The pride of
And then you
life.
also another one is power. Sometimes we're in positions where we have influence and so people get drunk on the power and they
Yes,
begin to
indeed.
abuse the power. And
Yes,
people get
indeed.
hurt because you're abusing the power.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yes, indeed. And they
Like our
lose sight.
president.
Yeah, well,
You like that, Alicia?
I do.
oh Lord. Oh Lord. Let's
It's
move on.
true. Preach, sister.
People get hurt.
Pastor, can I also throw in there that
Sure.
I see that Samson seems to go and test his strength after he does something sinful to see if he still has the power, to see if he still has God with him. So there was no real reason for him to go out there and rip up those posts. And he did it at midnight, an ungodly hour, like a weird time when everybody else was sleeping. He didn't wait
Hmm.
till morning and he threw them off. So they didn't get to kill him because they were waiting until morning, didn't expect him to come out at midnight and do nothing crazy like pull the gates up. So it'll be interesting to see where he went from there. But
Yeah.
he
He kept
keeps
doing it.
testing to see if he still has that strength after he has sinned against, everything.
And he's taking it for granted, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's using it to make them look foolish.
Foolish, right?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and kind of just poking them in the eye. You can't stop me.
Hmm.
You can't stop me. It's instead of you can't stop the God that I serve,
Mercy.
Right.
That's
Right.
right. Right.
That's
right?
right.
Wow.
So, and when we see this, notice how personal all of these, his great acts, right? The jawbone, right, of a donkey that he killed 1,000 men with, right? Nobody else there with it.
Yeah.
Personal. It- and Imagine with all of that power, how consumed you can become with all of that power, right? And all of that, all of the things he did, they were all provoked by his bad behavior. He was doing his own thing and wound up in a spot where he had to now do something, right? Some great thing to get out, or even to mark that he got out. Because remember, so here, see it again. So he's in Gaza. He's visiting, he's with this prostitute. He wakes up at midnight. The gates are locked and soldiers are posted at the gates. Let's go back. Let's go back and look at it. I want you all to see it. Right? They set an ambush. Where? All night at the gate of the city. They had closed it off. They were set to get him, right? The soldiers were at the gate. He runs through them and the gate is locked. The reason he had to take the gate is that the gate was locked. So he hits the gate, grabs the gate, and runs out with the gate. Right?
Oh, okay.
See?
I didn't catch that the gate was locked.
The
Yeah,
gate
I
is
didn't either.
locked. They ambushing him. They sitting around, they wait. Yeah, we got him now, right? And then they were going to send another contingent of soldiers and others to kill him while he was sleeping in the morning, right? Because everybody thinks, the best sleep is around 4 o'clock, right? And so right at the light of the morning in the dawn, while he's still got sleep in his eyes, right? They're going to go in and they think they're just going to kill him. And here it is again. He wakes up at midnight and goes and does what he does, right? He took hold of the doors of the gate. He ran to the gate. The gate is locked. Now, you and me, we were like, oh, this ain't going, 20 feet, solid wood, right? Bars across of it. And then anchored in the stone on both sides because the wall is made of stone, right? And so anchored in the stone, he hits the gate and just lifts it off and carries it with him, right? So here we go. Where are we? We got past that. Yep. So we talked about his personal, right? His lustful cravings. But here's the real lesson here, right? Samson was every man is right is enticed when he is in when every man is enticed of his what? His own lust, right?
Mhm.
But no man says when he is tempted that he is tempted of God, because God tempts no man, neither can he be tempted by any man. But every man is tempted when he is enticed of his own lust. And when lust is conceived, it brings forth
And
sin. And when sin is finished, it brings forth
Yeah.
yeah,
death, right? And so the teaching of the Bible is that God has not called us unto uncleanness, but unto holiness. We cannot see our lives as an opportunity. If it feels good, do it. Right? We can't allow ourselves to be compromised by the world. Now, I started this out because Sunday I said it, and I saw some people light up because, before we're saved, sin is our master. After we're saved, sin is our choice.
Hmm.
We choose. You made me cuss you out. No, you chose.
Mhm.
You did this and I had to go do that. You chose. Yeah, you made me mad, so I went out drinking. You chose. Sin is a choice. Sin no longer masters us. When you are in a relationship with God, you are no longer mastered by sin. You choose. And Samson kept choosing. He kept compromising, right? And we could focus on illicit sex, and that's where most people would focus. But what I want you to see is the character of his life. He was not mastered by the Philistines. He wasn't mastered by anything. God was his defense. So in the beginning of the study, I put this as the chapter study for the entire book of Judges. I had to go back and get the title slide. And God's faithfulness.
Mhm.
Remember, as we look at Judges,
Repeat that again for me, please, because my computer went nuts. And
Yeah,
you just
mine froze up too.
oh, I'm sorry.
Me too.
Everybody froze. Is everybody back now?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
What did you miss? What was the last thing you heard?
I missed it at first, like the first what you started with. You froze up twice. I couldn't tell you what point that was.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys saw this, and I talked about uncleanness, but unto
Yeah, we saw
holiness. You heard
that.
that, right?
Mhm.
So this is the first slide in my whole study of
And that's where we
Judges.
go. That's where you start.
Yeah. So this is the first slide, and I was teasing Mike about 540 slides later. I pulled it up, right? Because normally I send Mike the whole presentation. So this is 540 slides later. This is slide number 1 of 540, right?
Okay.
And I wanted to just go back to what Judges is. It's a study in man's failure. We used and Israel's failure being humanity's failure, right? But more than that, it's a study in God's faithfulness, right? And so that's why I brought it up here. So you can see that even in Samson, we're seeing a real uh, character study, right, in failure. And it is choice, always choice. What were you going to say, Renee?
Oh, nothing. I've cleared my throat. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So let's move on. So after this, after he tore the gates off, right? So then, and this after this is sometime later, right? He fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Now we get to one of the most famous names, right? Bathsheba, and they make movies about these failures, don't they? If you want to see a good movie on the Bible, it's always about somebody's failure, right? It's always right. So David and Bathsheba, Samson and Delilah, right? Great epic flicks about that. And he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him. And we will give you 11, we will each, all of the lords came, right? All of the guys in charge, the chiefs came to her. We will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver. What do you see here?
A lot of powerful people trying to undo it. They're going to use her as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we see this before?
With his first
With it,
engagement or
that's right.
young lady.
His first love, right? And so now they've come again. They figured out that hey, he's loving Delilah, and he's probably, he's coming to see her a lot, and they figured out that he'd come to see her, right? What else do you see here?
They
What do
figured
they
out his
want to do?
weakness. His initial weakness is women.
Yeah.
That they knew they would be able to get to what the real strength is, story of his strength is, through a woman in particular.
Yeah. What else?
And she was incentivized by a whole lot of money.
Whole lot of money. Good, good, good. Anything else?
I want to see where his actual strength lies.
Yeah. And how we can what?
To humble him, bind
hum-
him, overpower him, humble him.
So this bind him to humble him, this word humble him really means how we can use him. Force him to be used by us. Right? So let's go on. You guys ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to start out with another question. What was Samson's love? Why was Samson's love of Delilah sin? If so, why?
Well, she was a Philistine.
Philistine. Well, there we start, right?
Yeah,
God said, come out from among them and be separate, right? What else?
and even though they took his wife from him, he's married.
He's married.
Did
No,
he
that's
get
a good
married?
point.
That's a real good point.
I didn't
Yeah.
know he
Well,
married
wait a
her.
minute.
I thought they gave
Wait a
her
minute,
to
y'all. Isn't
the
he a
best
widower
man.
now?
Yes,
I'm
they
sorry,
killed her.
Alicia.
That's right. They killed his wife. They killed his wife and her father. That's right. That's
No,
right.
I'm sorry, Alicia. What were you saying? I was talking on top of you.
No, that's fine. I was just saying that I thought they gave her to the best man to marry. I didn't
They
think he
Yeah,
did.
even got a chance to
that's
marry
true.
her.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
But remember, they had already had the ceremony. They were married. They were the what happened is in the middle of the wedding feast, which happens after the, the actual giving of the woman, right? That's when it came out that the riddle had been given, she was the one that revealed it. And what did he say? If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have figured out my riddle, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we could say that Samson was married, but when he came back, he says, I didn't think you wanted her anymore, so I gave her to the best man, because that's what best men are supposed to be there for at every wedding. If you don't show up, this one is who she's got. But he had shown up, but he left. So he gave his wife away and said, okay, you can have her sister, right? So Philistine, he had already been committed, right? What is there another reason his love of her was sin? That's good. I'll leave you alone. So the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh, right, and the pride of life that John calls out, right, is how people destroy themselves. Renee brought up, the lust of power, right? Some of us understand, we say covet, but really it's lusting for possession, right? Covet is
Mm-hmm.
about lusting for your possessions. It could be lusting about what you got, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all of that, right? Unbridled lust, right? And passion. And that passion is the fire that drives you to continue to get what is satisfying your flesh.
Pastor.
Yes.
The thing that you have a woman he apparently loved. He didn't actually love her.
Did
He
he?
just wanted her.
No, 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 no. So the prostitute, he just went in. But this says he loved the woman.
Yes, they fell in love.
Yeah, yeah, he fell in love, right? That's a whole different word.
Hmm.
But is that marriage sanctioned by God then?
Is it?
That's
No.
why.
Well, the answer to the question is no, right? First of all, somebody already said she was a Philistine. That was definitely not sanctioned by God, right? But it's a clear picture of how we destroy ourselves by chasing the things that our flesh is passionate about instead of pursuing, right, the power and purpose of God. No alliteration for you guys, right? Now, this word that they say loved, you got to see that Samson he's head over heels. That word love in the Hebrew is really head over heels, right? Now, it doesn't say that she was a Philistine, but she probably was because they all came to see her, right? And so that drove, it drove his passion kept him coming back and they figured it out. And and because he was in love, it made him ignore the commandment of God over and over again. They weren't married, first of all, right? God forbids that. And so he's coming back over and over again, and it twisted his mind. People that are chasing their flesh, and I keep wanting to reiterate this, right? Do not get caught up that it's all sex. Chasing anything that takes your eye off of God, right, is sin. And so he was justifying his misbehavior, right? Because he was in love. I'm in love, right? Man on Fire. Anybody ever seen that movie with Denzel
Yes,
Washington?
Mhm.
many times.
Well, you remember them sitting at the table with the little girl, and his friend is sitting there with him. I was in love, right? And there was the excuse for why they did everything right, you know. So that's the feeling that he's having, right? And so he loved her, and his downfall came through her. So Delilah's a study, right, in flesh and desire. And so you can put anything in place of Delilah. Anything. So I love what Renee said about power. Um, there are so many that want to have ultimate power. And then you see how power corrupts, right? And it's
Mhm.
it's the continual acquisition of it. It's never enough. When you become power hungry, right? A megalomaniac, power hungry, right? You want to keep going after it and after it. So you can put anything there, right? Delilah is just the name that we've attached to it, but you could put anything that people pursue that's outside of the Lord, right? And that could become a study in flesh and desire and destruction. His greatest flaw was womanizing. His whole life he just spent in womanizing and rebellion, right? He had carnal fleshly desires. He fell in love with Delilah and he couldn't get enough of her. He could not get enough of her. And so the Philistines were able to exploit it. And this is what happens in our lives. The enemy is able to exploit our attachment to that passion, right? My passion is learning. My passion isn't teaching. My passion is not preaching. My passion is learning. God squeezes out of me teaching and preaching because that's my calling, right? But my passion is learning. And so when we have passions that are not aligned to God's purpose, they are easily exploited. And also in that exploitation, right? Remember that when when you will do anything to get it, you're also subject to blackmail, aren't you? You're subject to you're less transparent, right? It will keep you from serving with power. When you've got hidden things that really are the things that light you up on the inside, that are outside of what God's will is, we try to hide them. And in that hiding of them, it compromises our testimony, compromises our power, compromises our effectiveness, right? We are, I won't say anyone is ever useless to God, but we are certainly not optimized for God. Let me stop there. Comments? So they were exploiting his love. They were exploiting his relationship, right? And they went right to Delilah. What did the Philistines want to do with him again? Because it didn't say they wanted to kill him, did they? Let's go back.
Want to humble him for sure.
They wanted to humble.
They wanted to humble him. They wanted to overpower. Imagine they had never seen anything like this. They wanted to overpower him. And that overpower is bridle, right? It's the same thing as putting a bit in a horse's mouth. Once you get a
Thing is
horse,
meekness.
huh?
Same thing as meekness, but use it to remain.
No, so meekness is different, right? Meekness is a fruit of the spirit, and what meekness is gentleness and strength. They didn't want to make him gentle. They wanted to make him servile,
Mm-hmm.
right? They wanted to make him a servant. We overpower him. We command him. That's what they wanted. They wanted the ability to command him. And this last word, humble, and that's where you're probably looking at for meekness. Humble is put him under our feet
Mm-hmm.
and use him, right? Wanted to make him their slave.
So this almost sounds like the condition of chattel slavery.
Yes, they wanted to make him their slave and get from him productivity. That's a great point, Elise, because that's the next point I was going to make. This is really about them being able to use his power to their benefit. So imagine, right? Once you're compromised, take that first bribe. You are just somebody who took a bribe. Now you're going to do everything I tell you to do because there's no way you can come back from that. So if they could get him and overpower him and humble him, he would be forced to do their bidding. So imagine what he's like Goliath, right? Facing the entire nation of Israel. He is like that, right? They don't know how they can defeat him. They've been unable to defeat him. There's nothing around that seems to be able to hurt him, right? And so they want to take that, change it, enslave him, and then make him do their bidding. Imagine they just put him on the battlefield. Go kill those 1,000 guys over there. Comments?
He was going to be their Achilles.
Yeah. So it's a study in pursuit, but it's more of a study in compromise. Once you compromise to your lusts and unbridled, right? When your lust is out of control in your life and your passion begins to drive your actions, you are compromised, and anyone can come in, exploit it, and use you.
And it will be a humiliating thing.
That's right. Because
You
that
see a
humbling
lot
is
of,
also about humiliation.
yeah, you see that a lot of times with leaders, and when they fall, their fall is great and it's humiliating.
Yes,
And the world likes to rub your face in it. So
that's
they're gonna
right.
make it as painful as possible. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that's what we're about to see that, right? As armchair quarterbacks, we know how the story ends, right? So let's go to the next few verses. So Delilah said to Samson, please, because she's agreed, right? Please tell me
Mhm.
where your great strength lies and how you might be bound that one could subdue you. Samson said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought her up 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now she had men lying in ambush in an inner chamber. That means in the room next door, right? And she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he snapped the bowstrings as a thread of flax snaps when it touches the fire. And what is flax? Anybody remember? It's that wax string, right? That goes in a candle. And so when it touches the fire, it becomes just like water. So the secret of his strength was not known. What do you see here?
One, he didn't tell her the truth, but thankfully, and then they are some bold people. If his reputation precedes him, they know what he does to people that, deceive him or lie to him. I don't understand why they're taking such a chance with this one.
Desperation makes you do desperate things, doesn't it? They're desperate. He has been a thorn in the Philistine nation's
Mm.
side, right? They're willing to do anything to be able to get what they want. So yeah, you're right. I you I wouldn't want to be in the same room with him. I wouldn't trust anything. What else do you see? He didn't tell her, so that's right, Lisa. But what else do you see?
He was testing her loyalty.
Was he?
Well, if he told her the truth, and then he could be bound. So he told her a lie. He fooled the people the Philistines trying to get him. He knew it was a trap, so he played a trick on him to get him.
So we're reading
I
in
don't
here
think
that
he
he knew
knew.
it was a trap.
Yeah, I don't
I
think he
don't think
knew.
I don't think
No.
he cared.
I think he was just toying with her.
Yeah, I don't think he cared.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like he wasn't afraid of her, so he's thinking, what harm can she do? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just toy with her for a minute and see. But he probably didn't think anything about her conspiring or conspiracy or a trap or anything like that. Just kind of toying. And then so not be upset even after she has bound him with the 7 strands. He's not like totally upset. She's more upset, I think, will be more than he is.
So that's interesting because in this, in my studies, what folks believe is that when he goes to see her, he drinks and passes out, and so he's dead drunk. Sleep. She ties him up while he's asleep, and then he wakes up. She wakes him up, right? When the Philistines are coming in, and he breaks them like nothing. Now, it doesn't say what he did here, but I'm sure when he broke them, they ran out, right? Whatever, right? It doesn't go into that's not gonna work for us, right? So let's see. Let's talk about it for a minute. So Delilah obviously agreed, right? And she takes her first attempt, right, to get him he to get him to tell her, and he just kind of says, oh yeah, if you use bowstrings, right, you can tie me up, and it'll work, right? And so while he was sleeping, that's when they come in, and she ties him up while he's sleeping, and he was in a drunken stupor basically, because remember, and I think we talked about this a few times ago, right? He wasn't supposed to even drink, but he was also drinking all the time, and he was doing a bunch of things that he wasn't supposed to do. So in here, the way she was able to tie him, because after she told him, right, after he told her, he falls asleep. That's the only way. Because what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? But she tied him while he was asleep. You need to see that, right? Each time he's in her bedchamber, right? And she ties him while he's sleeping. Now, what does this say about the influence of love and lust?
It makes you blind.
Ah, blind. What else?
You let your guard down.
You let your guard down. Vulnerability, huh? It'll make you do anything. You know, you've, and also um, lust is like liquid courage too, right? You've heard people get drunk and then all of a sudden they think they can fight the entire room, right? Lust is the same thing. It makes you overconfident, right?
Is that her?
Him.
Because he clearly has fought an entire room and and thousands.
Oh, you're saying he has no lack of confidence.
No lack. There's no lack of confidence. She might have gotten emboldened. I don't know where her bold come from in her lust with him, but he clearly had no fear, I don't think, or no need, didn't feel the need for anything because he had already kind of conquered the world outside the window. Everything outside the door knew
He's
who
the
he
baddest man
was.
in town.
And he
I
didn't
agree. I think his
Yeah.
confidence, he had a big head. He didn't think nothing could. And what was she gonna do to him?
Right. And so he
Right.
passes out, right? Because the
Yeah,
reason he
I
didn't,
agree.
the Bible doesn't say any time that he was aware of this, right? Never says he was aware of it, which would indicate that he was either asleep or drunk or whatever, right? And why do you think Samson didn't share his secret? Gavion kind of touched on it and maybe one reason. Why do you think he didn't share his secret?
I think he's trying to test their loyalty, I think.
You think it's a
Right.
test of her loyalty?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because if you tell them something is not true, you see if they do it.
Hmm.
You know, it'd be a way of testing. You don't give them the information they want. You think that you give them the information they want, but you give them the wrong information.
So this is the first test. So her first attempt, he does the test to see what she's going to do with it. Is that what you think?
I think it
Women
just
make
goes
that.
back to him being selfish.
Mm,
He just want to keep it to himself.
yeah, that. And it could be that it wasn't something that was openly shared, right?
I don't even
And
think he actually knew that it was as detrimental as it was because he had violated all the other rules. The haircutting one was the only one he didn't violate. And what made that one more significant and would take away his power? I just don't even think he even knew it was going to take away his power. He
Yeah.
shared something that he knew was against the rules, but he wasn't sure it was going to have the effect that it did have.
which was interesting, right? Because you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. So he's broken the rule of not touching dead things. He's broken the rule of alcohol. He's broken the rule of sex. He's broken these rules and still has this amazing power. So that's a good point. This is the
Mm-hmm.
last thing that's
Yeah.
out there, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
he may have even figured it out that the only thing I haven't done is cut my hair, right? So, because we'll see how it works out, right? Going forward. So let's go to the next set. Then Delilah says to Samson, behold, you have mocked me and told me lies. Please tell me how you might be bound. And he said to her, if they bind me with new ropes that have not been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And the men lying in ambush, here they are again. They're in another room again, right? Lying in ambush, we're in an inner chamber, but he snapped the ropes off of his arms like a thread. This is a different night, right? Another visit.
Wow.
And he snaps the ropes off of him like they were threads, right? So there it is. You can see how it is. So she's now, what technique is she using? Tell
Process
me
of
what you see.
elimination.
Huh?
Process of elimination.
Well, no. What when you tell me what you see in
He
the scripture? We'll
resort to
talk about what
tears.
technique later. What do
The
you see in the
tears. You
scripture?
don't love me.
You don't love.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought you loved me. I thought you said you loved me. Now I don't believe anything you say.
Yep. I don't believe anything you say. You're a liar, right? You made fun of me, right? She and can you what um so we can see that, right? What else do you see here? Oh well, it's the same thing as the others, right? He lies. So let's talk about that for a minute. She accused him, right? And what do you think her face looked like when she was talking to him?
You're very annoyed.
And pouty,
Howdy.
right? Pouty.
Yeah,
Yeah, pouty.
yeah.
You making fun of me and she, make a fool out of me and but he never says, where did those dudes come from? How come every time I tell I'm telling you, right? Here they come again. Why does her technique or doesn't her technique work? Why do you think it doesn't work to get it out of him yet? He was a jokester, wasn't he?
Mhm.
You remember in the beginning, the riddles, and he just kind of laughs at people. They, you know people like that that just kind of laugh at you, even though you're really, really serious and you really want something, and they just kind of, ah, right? Kind of diminishing what's actually happening between them, right? And she, she basically said, "Hey, you want to be with me, you need to tell me," right? We know that it would work with some people. Either we do this or I'm out. And you sit back and say, "Oh, we're gonna do that then," because I can't stand losing you, right? So he gives it to her, and it still doesn't work, right? So we see the second attempt. Then here comes the third one. Then another time, right? Delilah says to Samson, "Until now you've mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you might be bound." And he said to her, "If you weave the 7 locks of my head with the web, and with spider web now, right? With the spider web and fasten it tight with a pin, then I will become weak like any other man." Now, this web is actually a weaving loom, right? You know how those work? So she's weaving his hair into a loom, right? Into this thing that makes like blankets and other things, weaving it in and using spider webs to make it stick, right? And then tighten it after it's done, right? Take at the end and put a pin through it so you can't pull it out. So imagine it's going through, you know how it goes through in these kind of ways and then up and down this way, and then at the end to loop it and put a pin in it so you can't get out. So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into the web, which is a loom, right? And she made them tight with the pin and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he awoke from his sleep. Now that's the first time we hear that he's asleep, right? And pulled away the pin, the loom, and the web. He just pulled it, shook his head, right? And broke it. So let's talk about that one. She came out and just said, "Tell me what would bound you," right? What do you think her tone was like?
Anger.
Anger, frustration, desperation, right? They probably were having a fight. You got to know because he came close. He told it had to do something with his hair, right? He came
Mhm.
close. Say, "Look, look, 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 look." He came close to telling her what the deal is, right? Is his hair. If you take my hair, right? And so he comes really close to telling her, right? When she shouted, he just shook his head and yanked his hair out of the loom, and he escaped. He ran again. Now we get to the Delise argument. And she said to him, "How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and you have not told me where your great strength lies." And when she pressed him hard with her words day after day and urged him, his soul was vexed to death. And he told her all his heart and said to her, "A razor has never come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If my head is shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up again, for he has told me all his heart." Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. She made him sleep on her knees, and she called the man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. What do you see?
Now, this one I kind of found a little perplexing Because he's had the other times where he told her a fake story, and like you said, they're guys, they jump on them, and he throws them off. So I can't understand why he actually ended up telling her the truth. Or did he
Okay.
really believe it? But it was the Lord that left him. I guess God finally said, you know what? Enough is enough.
Mhm.
Look at verse 16. What is verse 16 a picture of?
Yeah, she pressed him hard
A nagging woman,
and urged,
Nagging.
yeah, and vexed,
unrelenting
yeah,
nagging, vexed
yeah.
him
His
to death.
soul was vexed to death. She was following him around the house. Please, please, please.
All the
So,
more reason where there should have been more
Yeah,
questions then on his part. I don't know. I mean, it's not showing
yeah.
a full conversation here, but I'm
right,
pretty sure
right.
there was some back and forth. Like, no. So why are you asking me? Stop asking me. Why is it so important? And she's wearing him down with why it's important. And I'm sure she's
And
giving him all kind of stories. But
day after day, right? Day after day. A nagging woman is like a dripping
ooh,
faucet.
careful now. Careful,
Drip,
careful, careful
drip,
now.
You can say hello now.
drip.
No dripping.
The
No,
deal, the
no.
deal there, right? It's the picture that Solomon writes in Proverbs when he says that is if a drip of water drips on a stone long enough, it will cut a slice into that stone, right? That's what she's doing. She's constantly just dripping on him and dripping on him and dripping on him and wearing him down. And it says at the end of 16, what? His soul was vexed to death. She's going to kill me constantly asking me this. God, why are you still asking me? And and it's probably the same art. You say you love me. Come on. If you love me, trust me. If you love me, tell me. Tell me all your secrets. And he told her all his heart, all his secrets, right? And he told her who he was and what he was, right? And then she knew that he had told her the truth because you gotta realize that he's probably, you know, in some way emotional even about telling her, right?
Mhm.
And then what does she do? She called them boys, yo, I got it. He's told me everything that he needs to tell me. I know the secret. And they brought the money with them. They didn't bring the money the other times, did they?
Mhm.
They brought the money this time. Verse 19, why is that significant?
He's bowing before her, actually.
Huh?
He's bowing before her more or less.
No, 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 no. That's not the picture there. She's got his head is in her lap.
Mhm.
It's part of her seduction.
That's it.
And she's actually confirmed this. So, I don't know. I guess he's still passed out drunk, but she's able to do something that lets her know this is the real deal this time.
And she is now, right? Because imagine this is, you've trusted me with everything. I'm so glad. Lay your head here. And that's probably the best sleep of the day, just he's put his head on her lap and she's probably rubbing him to sleep and he is going off to sleep and shades. What does the phrase, then she began to torment him and his strength left him? What do you think that means?
I'm not really sure. Maybe she cut off one braid at a time and she could like see him,
Actually, she didn't even
losing
cut it.
strength.
She called a man
But
to
she
cut
didn't
him,
cut
right?
it. She let the other guys cut it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was kind of troubling. I'm not quite sure what that is even about.
This is again back to what Renee said, her seduction, the torment of her seduction, and now his strength left him, and he can't even grab her. She's seducing him and pushing him around and teasing him, right? And noticing that he doesn't have anywhere near the strength he had. She got him to go to sleep, then his hair was shaved, and now he's like any other man. I think that's the pic. What were you going to say? Anybody? The seduction here right? This is a word of seduction. She began to torment, she began to tease and tempt and run and push and hold him off. And he was unable to subdue her, and his strength left him.
I just had another thought. Do you think maybe she was testing it to see if it worked?
Yes, yes, yes,
So she does. Then the next verse is when she calls them and say they're here.
that's
Yeah.
right. So she discovered the secret. She did it by nagging him, right? And he broke. Why didn't Delilah protect Samson's vulnerability?
Huh? She was never on his side to begin with.
Right, but she's claiming, if you say you love me, why isn't your heart with me? This is also right, in relationships. The more vulnerable you are in a relationship, the more the more you need protection in the relationship. The other person who holds your vulnerability should be your ultimate protector. She was never in it with him.
No, she never was. She was all
Never
about the
in it.
money.
And
Mm-hmm.
he has mistaken, because she's been crying, if you love me, I love you, you love me, you love me, trust me, then give me the secret, right?
I think she was nagging and seducing at the same time. You know
Of
what I
course,
mean?
of course, of course.
Because for
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
with his silly self, well, he wanted to be deceived, but he trusted her for some reason.
Yep. And becoming vulnerable, right, makes you open to that exploitation. So you got
Yeah,
to be careful who you share your secrets with,
yeah. Be careful who you trust.
right? So what was Samson's real downfall?
Arrogance,
Being a fool.
arrogant,
Love.
big-headed,
It was
conceited,
love
cocky,
too.
Yeah.
all of the above.
Mm.
How many have seen the old King Kong movie with
Yeah.
Fay
I
Ray?
have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So King Kong is up
yeah.
there and he's got Fay Ray and he loves her, and he's being shot, and he puts her down and falls all the way to the earth.
Mm.
What
Mm-hmm.
does the reporter say when they come up? We finally got him, but what's the last line of the movie?
Does it
It
love
was
kill
beauty. It
It
was
was
love
beauty
kill the
that got
beauty.
the beast.
It was
beauty?
beauty
Beauty
that
killed the beast.
killed the
Yeah.
beast,
Kill the beast.
right? His real downfall again, right, is everything that got him in the bed is what caused him to fall out of it, right? He was so consumed with the woman that he wanted that he gave her the secret of his life. And it didn't kill him, but it definitely caused his great downfall. Comments? She seduced the truth out of
This
him,
is going.
right? What you say?
I'm sorry.
No,
Go
please.
ahead. No, I was
No.
talking to Ricky. Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. So she seduced it out of him, right? And the ability of that she had to seduce it out of him was his downfall. His flesh, to your point, Renee, it wasn't just the nagging, it was also the tempting and the seduction combined that got it out of him. He had no true character.
Right. It was his own fault.
That's right. That's exactly right. So her fourth and final attempt, right? Do you think Samson figured out what she was doing and why?
I don't think he figured it out, because if he had, he would have kept toying with her.
I don't think he's stupid, right? But I think the
Well, he's
nagging
not, and
finally
that's
got to
why
him.
I was so confused that, maybe this was one of those telelens things that had happened over a period of time, not
Hmm.
just back to back to back.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't in his
Mm-hmm.
mind constantly. She did this, over time. She really worked him.
Yeah, and he wasn't stupid. Every time she
Right.
tied him up, right, there were the Philistines, right? And what should he have done?
He probably should have left.
Yeah, he should
That's
have
right.
left.
He should have run, right? Because obviously this woman trying to get me killed.
Mhm.
Why did he stay? And how did his lust affect him?
I think his arrogance. I mean, this man, he was so mad.
He
He just
found her
he felt,
intriguing.
yeah,
So
he felt invincible.
Right.
You can't touch.
Mhm.
Yep.
Are you, did I hear MC Hammer? You can't touch this? What?
You can't touch. Yep.
Right. So his lust affected him, right? It really blinded him. His lust had grabbed his heart, his passion had grabbed his heart, blinded his mind, right? He wasn't acting rationally. Any rational person would have said, I woke up these last 3 times and these fools standing around me, right? I there was no reason for him to stay, and yet he did, right? He was driven by his desire for her companionship, her softness, her passion, whatever it was, right? He was infatuated, and it blinded him to the commandments of God and the call of God. So, what was the result of his compromise spiritually?
his
He
downfall.
he was deprived of the benefits of his salvation.
That's good.
The Lord left him.
The Lord left him. That's
Ooh,
good,
that's a good one.
right?
Make it so bad. I think the next one say he didn't realize. He tried to get up and thought he was going to do the same thing, but he
Yeah,
didn't realize the Lord had left him.
the Lord had left him, right? And so he had compromised this lifestyle so long that he became insensitive to
Right.
God,
To
right?
God's presence. Yeah.
Yes. He neglected and ignored God and the relationship with God, right? He disobeyed. Can you live a compromised life and not become desensitized to God and neglectful of your relationship with Him?
I don't
Mhm.
believe he can.
No.
You cannot, right? Because living a compromised life requires building a callus on your heart and on your spirit, right? When
It
we,
almost gave an example like you could. He lived a long time. He did a lot of stuff before he was brought down or humbled, but eventually it happened. But my goodness, thousands of people are dead in his wake. They might have been, may have been cursed people. I'm not quite sure, but it just seems like he was allowed to run amok for a long time to where even his people that his family's with would know the secret. They know the secret. You know what I'm saying? I'm surprised people didn't go back to his village where his people were and be like, tell me the secret of his strength. I want to know that. But not everybody was strong like that. He was a rare guy in their village, right?
mm-hmm,
Appointed,
Mhm.
anointed.
mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I
Samson
know.
was a unique guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we look at that, remember, put Delilah as anything, right? Anything that you have seen in your life or other people's life, and understand, right, that over time, that thing will figure out your strength and destroy it. Whatever that thing is. Bill Clinton, anybody remember Bill Clinton?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness gracious, do not.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
Bill Clinton was a victim of progressive revelation, right? Not a victim, but his deal. You got to know that in that White House there were people that knew
Mhm.
what was going on
Oh yeah,
and went to
absolutely.
him and went to him, and he didn't do anything. Two people went, then a group of people,
Mhm.
then the closest people, and he was not going to change until rooftop revelation. That which you do in the
Mhm.
closet shall be proclaimed on the rooftop. Rooftop revelation, right? He lived a compromised life and became desensitized. And that desensitization made him think that there was no penalty.
Mhm.
When you build a callus on your heart and on your spirit and on your mind in a relationship with God where you no longer are sensitive, it's like any other relationship. When you kill a part of your relationship in order not to be hurt in that part, you build a callus. And that callus takes away the sensitivity in that area. And you
Yeah.
become neglectful. And it's easy to think that I don't have to do this. And he calloused himself against the commandments of God. He calloused himself against the teachings of his parents. He calloused himself against the call of his life. And he was compromised. And the compromise just got bigger and bigger until his secret could not be hid. Comments? All right. Moving right along. Look at us moving right along. Judges 16, 20, 21. And she said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he awoke from his sleep and said, I will go out. Look, 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 look. I will go out as at other times and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Now remember, she was tormenting him, and then he fell asleep, right? Remember, I told you this was that physical seduction she was doing, testing his strength, and he passed out. And then she says, the Philistines are upon you. And he awoke from his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. And the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he ground at the mill in the prison. Anybody ever see the first movie, Conan the Barbarian?
Mhm.
So Schwarzenegger, right? He's growing up and he's got all these guys around this wheel, right? And that's what the picture is. He's doing that move, pushing that ground, right, by himself. It's the job of 10 to 12 men, and he's doing it by himself. That's the picture of Samson, right? If you can remember that picture of that circular thing where he's just pushing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And he ground mill at the mill in the prison. That was his job every day.
So he became their personal mule.
Yes, he was humbled, he was overpowered, right? And now all he could do was their bidding. And they made him, what did they think when they gouged out his eyes? What do you think they thought?
That he was no longer dangerous.
Right, right, right. So Samson was captured, led into captivity. The Spirit of God had left him. He got caught. They gouged out his eyes. They forced him to grind grain. What mistake did the Philistines make, though?
The mistake, I think, is that thinking that the hair had the power
Mm-hmm.
instead of God in him, having that power.
They should have killed him.
Right.
They should have had a
Right.
barber in his cell every day, is what they should have had.
Yeah, because
Yep,
the
that's
stubble
true.
was growing.
That
Let his hair grow back.
Yeah,
He should have been getting that bald. He should have been getting balded
they
every
should have
day.
kept it cut,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. They should have had that razor on him every day, but they made a mistake. They were
They let it grow
overconfident. They
back.
thought because they gouged his eyes out, right? That
Mhm.
he was helpless. Because they had him in chains, they thought he was helpless because he was compliant, right? That he was helpless. And so they probably, they had him under their control. And so they wanted his hair to grow back, right? So that they could use his strength for their own purposes. Like, if you go back and humble him, remember that was so we could use him as our tool, right?
Hmm.
But that was a serious miscalculation, right? So you know, it's interesting to watch this, right? Because the Philistines became overconfident, didn't they? They think because they got him in chains, they got him blinded, right? They got him doing what they want, that he's no longer, to Mike's point, dangerous. So let's think about it. We've seen him just come to ruin, right? A life full of promise. Manoah and his wife have this child, and God brings the child because she was barren up until this point. They were obedient. They taught him. I've been saying from the beginning in Samson's life, he never signed up. He knew what the deal was, but he never signed up for it. That's why you see the rebellion, right? He had godly parents, godly teaching, um, but he was driven by the lust of his flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, right? So when God says we shouldn't give in to unbridled lust and passion, how can we comply with that? We are people, humans were made to be passionate, to have physical desires and to fulfill them in each other, right? So how do we comply with that? I've put some verses down here. You guys can look at them, and then let's just come up with some kind of approach. Oh man, I'm late. Lord, y'all didn't even tell me it's almost 9 o'clock. Oh gosh. Okay. Oh, but you let me go over 15 minutes over, Mike. You're supposed to have the clock, man. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
Hey, it was good. All good.
All good, Pastor.
My goodness.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at it. The way we do, right, is one, look at the second Timothy 2:22. Flee youthful lust, follow righteousness, right? Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart, right? What we are supposed to do is to recognize that we have the power to bridle the the things in us that would make us turn from the Lord, right? The things that would give us all of the feeling and fulfillment, right? That God has put in us. If we don't focus them correctly, if we follow what our as children, if we were just let to do whatever we wanted to do, if we continue to do that, we will fail. Instead, don't follow that, follow righteousness, follow faith, exhibit charity, make peace with all of them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Also, walk in the Spirit, and we will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Walk in the Spirit. And then Galatians 5:24, they that are in Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. To remember where I started, once we are saved, before we're saved, sin is our master. After we are saved, sin is our choice. And we see this in Samson, that he made choice after choice after choice. 2 Timothy is telling us, choose righteousness, choose faith, choose charity, choose peace. Choose to call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Paul writes in Galatians, choose to walk in the Spirit. Choose rather than choosing to fulfill the lust of the flesh. And then in the last one, remember, we Those that are Christ have crucified the flesh with its affections and lusts. So that says that every time we exhibit the behavior that is contrary to this, we are making a choice. Everything from gluttony all the way up to and including any, just spiteful murder. Your rage is a choice, not anger, rage. What's the difference between anger and rage? Anybody?
Control.
Control. Exactly. Rage is where anything comes out of your mouth in the fit of anger because your heart is angry. Out of the abundance of the heart,
The mouth speaks.
the mouth
Speaks.
speaks, right? Choose. Keep it in your mind. Write it down somewhere. Sin used to be my master. I will not let sin be my choice. I will not let sin be my choice. Comments, gripes, moans, complaints, questions? All right. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm sorry I went over.
Pastor, it's not Sunday, you're cool.
Huh?
It's not a Sunday service, you're cool.
I just like to be faithful to the time, and I definitely lost it this time. I'm sorry. Thank you for being patient with me, and thanks for tonight. This was a good discussion. You guys were live tonight, so really, really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pat.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Stay safe. Good night.
Good to see you, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Thank you, Pastor. Hey, Miss Alicia, how you going? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How's your bride? Where's she at tonight?
She's all right. She kind of fell out a little early.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
She
I'm
can't
I'm
keep up with
sitting
this
here,
pace.
head down.
Yeah, she's about to fall out too. So, amen.
I told her you usually send out the links to the recording, so
Yep.
Y'all
I'll
have a
do
good
that.
night.
you'll be able to check it out.
Yes, indeed. Thanks,
Yes, sir.
man. Thanks, guys. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.